Hiya, my name's Monique and today I'm going to be talking about the Kibbe body type test.
So first things first, what are Kibbe body types? The Kibbe system was created by a man called David Kibbe. Shocker, I know. It's given when Alice Gray called her laparoscopic technique the Gray method. But anyway, Kibbe created this theory because he thought that traditional style theories were not it, because they tried to make everyone look the same. So with his view of everything possessing an amount of yin, which is akin to softness, and yang, sharpness, he created a system with 5 families: dramatic, natural, gamine, classic and romantic. He then added more classifications within these families, as whilst you might have a lot of sharpness in your looks like a dramatic, you may have softness and curves too, which would make you a soft dramatic. So Angie Salama created this scale that you're seeing now to try and illustrate the relationship between yin and yang, because whilst you'd assume that if you're a soft dramatic you'd be next to a pure dramatic on this scale, you have more softness than the natural and flamboyant natural types, which means that you're further along because you have more yin. Does that make sense? Don't worry if it doesn't, because I'll get into it more later.
Recently I've been scrolling along on TikTok and I've been seeing a lot of videos that talk about your Kibbe body type and how to dress exactly for it. So I was introduced to this system a few years ago when I was recommended a video by Ali Art, and I was intrigued. I was about to take the test and everything, but then it said you kind of have to get dressed and take a photo of yourself and then answer all these questions and then like add up your score to see exactly what type you were, and I was like, that's a lot of work. So I just left it in the end, and since then I didn't really give it a second thought. I just thought, yeah, I know I'm a pair, so I'll move on. But seeing these TikToks that tell you exactly what to wear to flatter your Kibbe body type, I've been much more inclined to give it a go. So with the Kibbe system, you take into account your flesh, bone structure and facial features, which is then used to put you on an axis from yin to yang and contrast and blend. So it does sound very complicated, and I think it actually is a little bit more complicated than most usual body type tests, but you end up having 13 types that you can be categorized into, and even Kibbe himself admits that like there are way more and there are way more in betweens. But it's a really good start, isn't it, if you just want some kind of style direction. That's my opinion anyway, but we'll see how I feel after I actually take the test.
First, let's have a further look into the 13 types. So Rebecca from CozyRebecca.com came up with this really clever way of illustrating each type with shapes to represent their essence. So for example, the romantic, who's the softest and most round of the types, is depicted by a circle. So romantics are usually on the shorter side and are described as being soft and voluptuous girlies with an hourglass shape. A defining feature of romantics are their bone structure, which is delicate and smallish but usually on the wide side. The most famous example of a celebrity romantic is Miss Marilyn Monroe, and she has a very typical face of a romantic too, where she has full and rounded features. Then if you take a romantic and add some sharpness or angularity, you get a theatrical romantic. So the main difference with this figure is that they will most likely have a waspish waist, as they say in the community. I've literally never heard anyone say that before, but like I get exactly what that means. And then facially they will probably have some slightly sharper features, like for example Rachel McAdams facially seems quite soft at first. She has round eyes, full lips and flesh on her cheeks, but she has sharp, high cheekbones and an angular jaw. So next we have the pure dramatics, which are the sharpest and most angular of all the body types. So this is essentially the opposite of romantic, where romantics are usually under 5'5", dramatics are usually over. Their bodies are generally straight and angular, and they have long and narrow arms and legs. Facially they're very sleek, they'll usually have almond-shaped eyes and taut skin around the cheeks and jaw. But then if you add a little bit of softness to dramatic, you get a soft dramatic. So these two types can look so different because whilst they have similar frames, a soft dramatic will be very fleshy, and if you Google Christina Hendricks figure, you'll know what I mean. So people who fall into this type will also have sensual features, so think big eyes, full lips and fleshy cheeks. Moving on to the middle of the scale between romantic and dramatic, we have the classic type. So these people are an even blend of both and will appear very much balanced. So they will usually be between 5'4" and 5'7". They'll have an evenly proportioned bust, waist and hips, and facially they'll usually be very symmetrical and evenly spaced. If you add a little bit of softness to the mix, you'll get a soft classic. So this type will be under 5'6", and they'll have more rounded edges. So a softer bone structure and more fleshiness than the pure classic. Facially, they'll be more soft and full too. But if you add some more angularity to the classic shape, you will get a dramatic classic. So their bodies are usually slightly muscular, and the bust, waist and hips will be somewhat straight. Again, they'll be very symmetrical, but they'll have a slightly squared bone structure. So a great celebrity example of a dramatic classic is Courtney Cox, and if you compare her with a soft classic like Lupita Nyong'o, you'll see exactly what I mean by soft and sharp facial features. Next up we have the naturals. So this type will be straight and muscular with no waist definition. They'll be moderately to slightly tall with blunt edges. And I don't want anyone to think that no waist definition is a bad thing, because one of the Friends crew that is a natural type is Jennifer Aniston, and didn't everyone want her body back in the day? If you combine the natural type with romantic, you get the soft natural. This type will have a slightly small waist in proportion to the bust and hips and lean towards a slight hourglass shape. They'll have slightly angular bones and full and rounded facial features as opposed to the naturals' smaller straight ones. I've seen Matilda Jerf categorised as a soft natural, and I think she is a really great example because she fits the description to a T. Plus, because she's an influencer, there are literally hundreds of photos of her to reference to. If you combine the natural type with dramatic, you'll get the flamboyant natural. This type will be moderately to very tall, and they'll be quite straight and angular but not sharp, so they'll have blunt edges. Facially, their lips will usually be straight and slightly thin, and their cheeks will be taut. A lot of supermodels are actually this type, so you have Brooke Shields, Candice Swainpole, Claudia Schiffer, and I can't not mention Michelle Obama because Queen. And then finally, you have the gamine family. So this type to me is so super duper interesting because they're defined by an even combination of yin and yang opposites, and they're described as having a sharply delicate physicality with a fresh and spicy essence. So they're usually 5'5" and under, straight up and down with flatness in the bust and hips. They'll have a very narrow bone structure, huge eyes, thin lips, and taut cheeks and flesh. But then, say you take the gamine type and mix it with the romantic, you get the soft gamine. So this type will still be petite and have a delicate frame, but they will be much softer, so you can expect them to have a curved bust line and hips. They'll have doll-like facial features, so round eyes, fleshy cheeks and full lips. Jenna Coleman is a celebrity example, and she is literally like a living doll. Last but not least, we have the flamboyant gamine. If you got here, thanks for sticking with me. So this is a combo of the gamine type mixed with the dramatic or natural types. So these people have a short vertical line, so will appear very petite. Like Audrey Hepburn is a classic example of this type, and I genuinely thought she was about 5'2". So imagine my shock when I found out she was 5'7". Their bodies will be very straight, and they'll have squareness in the shoulders. Their facial contours will be slightly sharp or broad, and they will usually have huge eyes, taut facial flesh, and moderate to full lips.
So I think I'm ready to take the test. So I am using the Concept Wardrobe's website, and it says the best way to perform the test is by taking a picture of yourself in a swimsuit or underwear. Make sure you're standing straight and that the camera is around chest level. You need a straight shot of your body. So I have used this very flattering image, and hopefully it's the best representation of my body that I can get. The test is divided into 3 sections: bone structure, body flesh, and facial features, and you will need to tally your answers by section. So record your answers like this: 1 bone structure, 1A, 2C, 2 body flesh, 5E, 2D. Okay, yeah, we get the gist. Cool. When answering the questions, select the answer that best describes your body, even if it doesn't match perfectly. We are looking for an overall pattern, hence a few deviating answers here and there will not change your type. make sure that you clearly understand each answer. That was my biggest problem during school, because I thought I produced some bangers of essays and it turns out that I didn't even understand the question. So yeah. Question number 1. How long is your vertical line? So 2 people can measure the same height in inches, but one can appear taller than the other. So Angelina Jolie and Katy Perry are the same height. Who looks taller? Angelina, for sure. Katy Perry looks about my height. Okay, so looking at my picture, yeah, I would probably put C, just because, one, I'm not really too sure, but I do feel like I just look my height. What shape are your shoulders? Be aware of posture when answering this question. So my shoulders can best be described as narrow, sharp, broad, blunt, sloped, tapered, sloped, rounded, symmetrical, even. Okay, so from looking at the pictures, I would say my shoulders are sloped, tapered. How long are your arms and legs, and what shape are they? Well, they're definitely not short then in proportion. They're just kind of like chunky. So maybe I would say D, small, slightly short. What are the size and shape of your hands, feet? So they're definitely not tiny, but my hands are not big, so that's why I'm going to say slightly, and very wide too. E. Part 2, body flesh. Okay, so note that body fat does not affect your answers. This is about the overall look of your flesh, skin and muscles. Muscles, I do know how to say it properly. Some people have very soft fleshy cheeks, me, even when thin. Others have very taut skin on their cheekbones, even when overweight. I wish I was one of those freaking people. Who is it? I think there's someone on bloody... Has anyone seen the most recent season of Maths Australia? Not the most recent, I think it's season 8 of Maths Australia, because one of the judges, she has an amazing bone structure and very taut skin, so I thought she'd be like super duper, but curvy goddess. Right, so anyway, what is the overall shape of your body? I don't know, it's really hard to judge yourself on this, but then again, I never really look at people's bodies in this way. So yeah, we'll go with delicate hourglass. 5D. What shape is your bust line or upper torso? Compared to my body, I would say I'm moderate even, so that is probably a 6C for me. What shape is your waistline? So the shape of my waistline can best be described as, actually I might be D, just because I feel like my waist is more than slightly defined, more angular. Oh yeah, for sure, I can see like an angle. It just makes you think a bit like, I don't know, it just makes me think, am I being a bit much? Am I thinking I'm an hourglass queen? I don't know. So what shape are your hips? So I would call mine quite rounded really. So again, a D I would say. I almost feel like I'm stuck with the D answers. I'm thinking, am I getting all D's because that's actually what my body is? Or am I getting all D's because I've been going for D's for the past few? That's the difficulty with this, but I mean, it is fun though. I will give it that. What best describes the flesh on your upper arms and thighs? Squishy. So very soft, slightly wide and fleshy. Yeah, 100% E. So that is 9E. Right, so part 3, facial features. What shape is my jawline? My jawline can best be described as A, sharp, either pointy or very square. I do have quite a square jawline, but it's quite rounded. So broad, blunt, slightly wide, Delicate tapered or slightly rounded, rounded or softly wide, moderate, neither wide, sharp nor rounded, so it's definitely not C. Blunt and slightly wide, can feel broad. Maybe I'll go with B. What shape is your nose? Just from these answers, I would say E, rounded or softly wide, because it is a very... Okay, what shape are your cheekbones? From those, I would say broad and blunt on the large side, probably. Because even though you can't see them, they're freaking huge. Like, they're the most prominent part of my face shape, I feel. And they're quite high. What shape are your eyes? I would definitely not say my eyes are narrow and close together. I'm just going to go with C there, so evenly spaced, moderately wide. And what shape are my lips? I do have lip liner on, just so you know. E, mainly because my bottom lip is fucking huge. So what best describes the flesh on your cheekbones? I would say I've got very fleshy cheeks. I would say E for that one. And then 16, what best describes your hair? It's actually quite coarse. You really can't tell on camera, but like I always have like frizziness. So moderate texture, slightly wavy or with a band. I'd probably go with C. 16C. I'm acting like I've got the curliest hair in the world. It's not. I have a very slight bend naturally. Okay, so let's add up the answers then. So I've just added up my totals and I got the most D's and E's with having 5 answers for each. So let's see what body type I am then. So mostly D or E answers. If you got mostly E answers, you're a pure romantic. If you got mostly D answers, or if most of your answers are E or D with a few A answers, theatrical romantic. Okay, so I was a little bit confused, but I found this site, cozyrebecca.com, that says if you got mostly D answers or a combination of E and D with up to 4 A plus B answers in body or facial bones, then you have a theatrical romantic body type. So what do they recommend for us to wear?
Okay, so the general consensus is that a theatrical romantic should dress primarily like a romantic to complement the body's softness, but you can afford to add some edginess with some drama or a little bit of tailoring. So this dress worn by Rihanna seems to be a great example because it's a soft feminine fabric and colour that shows off her curves, but has that little bit of angularity with the tailoring at the top. So the most important thing though is to always highlight the waist, so by wearing high-waisted trousers, jeans and fitted dresses, this can be achieved. I've also seen that flowing fabrics with ruching are highly recommended, tapering if you're wearing trousers, and then with patterns or details, circles and intricacy is recommended. On quite a few sites though, they have lists with a lot of things to avoid.
So literally everything I wear is on that list. See, what I'm thinking that it's telling me to wear is something that I have for work. I will go and show you. Okay, so I've just got changed and this is a dress that I wear for work, and I feel like what I've just read kind of describes this to a T. So it has circular patterns, it ruches and flows at the bottom and also cinches my waist in. So whilst I agree it's good for my body shape, I also feel like it's good for everyone's body shape. So all in all, I do think the test is very fun to do, and if you've got absolutely no direction for what styles to go for, I would say give it a go. It might be worth it and you might find something that is really flattering on you. Otherwise, it's definitely not a necessity, and I feel like it does leave a lot of room for improvement. And then the last thing that I thought was you have to be very critical of yourself, and it might be a little bit of a struggle if you struggle with body image, body dysmorphia, self-esteem issues, so I would definitely be wary of that too. If you got to the end of the video, thank you so much, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Bye!